So good morning. So I'm looking at some Elvish at the moment. The Fairy Queen is wearing a tunic, and that is like a number of her family has cast into the threads spells, protection, the old stories. These would have been made by some of the Elvish ancients. The cloth itself, either woven or painted with liquids from the forest, sap, other colours from toadstools. So their clothing would be cast with these spells, made while the garments were being made. These spells would be painted or woven into the cloth. So I've been doing a little bit of that this morning and looking at character. So at the moment I'm drawing up Kayafin in her outfit. I'm just going to take that out a little bit more so you can see a little bit more. There we are, cool. You can see where I'm working. One of the things I'm going to do this morning, in about 5 minutes, is I'm going to tell a story. But first I just wanted to do a little bit more of her outfit. What is she doing? Why is she doing what she's doing? I've been working a lot on Kayafin, the Fairy Queen, Elvish Queen, of her story. And one of the things that I looked into with Kayafin was the meeting of the oracle in the temple that stands between the worlds. It would also be there many years later, but before she was with child, that she was to meet Gwithar and Gwithilion. It has long been known that the Elvish and the fairies, elementals that they are, come from a different heritage, lineage, yet they share many things. And from time to time, the Elvish and the fairy people work together. When I was first writing my stories, I had a number of experiences with elementals and considered the fairies that one should leave them alone until they were ready to talk to you or to welcome you in, or in some cases to welcome you back. I had a number of experiences with elementals at the age of around about 12, and again around about between 12 and 19 I returned to them and started painting pictures about them, and they showed me things. And I think when we go out into nature, there is that time when we feel connected, that is to the natural world, to trees, as much as to the wind and the rain. A friend storyteller and wise woman, Suzanne Arnold, and she often talks about our connection with nature, understanding the healing properties of plants, etc. And I guess where I'm coming from often is the magic part of the elementals. So for me, Kaiafin here, elvish queen mother of Findorian, must have had a previous life, and also had a life before I brought her in to the stories. I was curious as to what that might be. So the last couple of weeks on here, I've been recording live stories. I just wanted to explain, because some people came in and didn't know what I was doing, that I was telling as I was seeing. Therefore, I did not know what I would be shown. I did not know that the young Kaiafin here, at around about the age of 10, I think she was, 10 summers or 10 winters old, with her grandmother and 2 other elders, wise women. Interesting how often I come across stories in the world where it's wise women rather than wise men who do such things as connection with nature. But it's not always. Of course, we have Merlin as a connector with nature and magic, and there will be others, and I certainly have them in my stories. Zava Zaf Azar is one of them. Falavaji is another. And I do also have Gildrin the Bright, who is new to me, but has entered the stories. But my point is, it does not have to be gender-led, but generally I do seem to come across wise women. And we are in that time when we need that kind of energy in the world and in stories, therefore, because stories reflect the world and the world reflects stories. So Kaiafin meets the oracle at around about 10 summers old. The oracle, wise, ancient, perhaps immortal in a way, sees much in the young child and sees something that I cannot say. For I know it is not time to say, but she sees something most extraordinary, beyond even the hidden destiny of the son that will be born to her many years later. So an even greater secret, which I found intriguing. And as a writer, artist, one tends to, I intend and love the sense that I don't know everything about the story. I like working like that. I like the idea that I suddenly find myself in a forest and the wind is blowing, the branches are aching, there's rain in the air. And this takes me back to a child, being a child, when my first memory was being pushed along a seafront, I think it was, and the little flap that used to have, in those days, a front of where you sat, like a windbreak almost, would be, I remember it being clip, clip, clipped up as the rain came by somebody, possibly my mother, possibly a brother or a sister. But interestingly, what I remember most of all is the soft splattering of the rain that escaped the shield, the rain shield, I remember them touching my skin like sparkles, fresh, enlivening, totally and utterly enlivening. I remember that well. And it has stayed with me, interestingly enough. So I guess I was about a year old then, maybe younger, not a lot older. But I do remember it now, as if it never went away. It became a total memory for me. So here I'm incising, indenting into the paper to add an extra depth to the artwork. I'm using oil-based pencils. As long as I indent enough. So that memory has fed many things. One of the things it has fed for me, I think, is the absolute love of putting on a coat. Just going to have a sip of my tea. Cheers. Putting on a coat when I hear the wind blowing outside, and I'll just stop what I'm doing. I'm often working at home, so I'm lucky enough to do that. I'll stop what I'm writing or drawing, and out I go. Out into the wind. Don't like having a hood over my face. Too much protection because of that thing that happened all those years ago. That somehow there's life in being outside. That energy of the rain on your face. It's like being up a mountain, you're absolutely soaking wet, and yet somehow still there's an exhilaration about it. So for me, the exhilaration, that energy is so connected to the elementals. And my mind enters a space where the small ones, elvish or fairy, are out collecting rain with all manner of things, upturned toadstools, for instance, bringing them home to mother, somewhere up in the tree where they built a house long ago. This sense of magic. So I would, for Kayafin, I've done a number of drawings, illustrations, where there are houses, rows and rows and rows of them, built on branches. They sway this way and that. You can look down the street and see it swaying this way and that. And I know where that comes from. Growing up in Bristol, walking to school in the morning, crossing the suspension bridge in Clifton, famous iron bridge. But when it got really windy, it would bend. And that sensation, as a kind of 11, 12-year-old, you could say it was frightening, but it was thrilling to feel this huge expanse of metal over the Avon Gorge, hundreds of feet below, yet it was moving, swaying. I was worried that I'd get there on my way to school and they'd say, you can't cross, it's too dangerous. They wouldn't let cars go across. Sometimes they'd let pedestrians, but not with the weight of the car. So that idea when I imagined what the elvish town was like that Kayafin lives in. Of course the houses are up in the trees, there are streets up there, fields up there, gardens up there alongside the houses. And of course on extremely windy days, the houses move around. Plants sway, bushes sway, people open their doors and look out. There it is, bad day today. Look at that. If I'm not careful, I'll end up on another branch. So the imagination feeds itself from, in my case, from what I experienced as a young man and as a child, and just went on feeding that sense of wonder, rather than saying, oh, that's not possible. That's not possible. Well, actually, why not? Isn't that the wonder that we allow ourselves to be sparked by nature? Put on your coat and go outside. We're endlessly told these days how good it is to be in nature. And one of those things is the wind, the rain. And for someone like me, and I don't know whether it's for you, but to be outside where there's a little sky, you can see it. Perhaps you're not in a thick forest, or you're walking across a field down to a river, making your way through a gateway. You can hear it opening and closing. But when you look up, for me, I'll see the scudding clouds, sometimes with their softened edges as rain comes tumbling down out of them. Other times their edges are caught with gold by the rising or setting sun, or coloured by a rainbow. And sometimes if you can see for a long way, 10, 15, 20 and more miles, you can see the great storms in the distance, like shapes from a child's picture book, perfect, as if they were ships sailing along the edge of the world, and the world had an edge to it and isn't round at all. So I should tell you a story. And as this is recorded, I shall likely put it up here as a long film video to watch later, if you happen to pop in and out. So I'll explain that for many years, now in my 32nd year as a storyteller, travelling around the country, around Britain, and sometimes further afield into other countries, taking my harp and my flute and drums and whistles and other instruments, I tell stories. I went to Ireland 3 or 4 times and became enamoured by the stories of the war band known as the Fianna, that in their Irish mythology they protected Erin, Ireland. They were great and strong. They had huge tests that they had to overcome. They had to prove that they would be able to fight up to 9 men and still be the winners. They would only ever marry for love, not dowry. And in the winter time, in the bleak time, in return the people would take them in on the cold winter nights and feed the Fianna until the war band went off to protect the land. There are many stories about Fionn McCall, the leader of the Fianna, and the salmon of wisdom, and how he learned that you cannot be a warrior if you have not learned wisdom first. He has a name that is synonymous with Ireland. His son, Oisin, has stories, including the story of his own son, Oscar, and some of the other Fianna, like Goll and Dermid of the Love Spot. He had his hair covered over his forehead, which covered the love spot, for any woman who saw it fell in love with him instantly. Perhaps a youthful little thing. Anyways, Oisin grew up with these great warriors, each able to battle, to fight for one another, to protect Ireland. They were noble, they were chivalrous, they would always try and do the right thing, and they would go to the extra mile, as we say these days. They would go to the ends of the earth for those they love and protected. Once Oisin had a child of his own, Oisin, whose mother apparently was turned into a deer one day, caught by a black wizard, a dark wizard who used the dark arts and turned her into a deer, stealing her from Fionn McCall. That's a lovely story too, but it's not the story I shall relate to you today. The story is of Oisin. It is one of the great magic stories. Oisin, now with a son, Oscar, with all this band, the Faerie, standing on a beach, the tide coming in, the foam rising up upon the wind. None of them knew, not even Fionn McCall himself, wise though he was, even he did not know that they were being watched as they stood there amongst the brine and the waves and the wind, watching the storm passing by. They did not know that they were being watched. Long ago, years before, but years no matter, not here. Time matters not. There was a beautiful woman, daughter of the king of Tire na Nog, the land of the ever young. Her name was Neve of the golden hair. If there are beautiful women in the world, none would match hers. Her hair was long and golden, her eyes could soften anything that would not soften otherwise. She could reach any heart. She could choose anyone to marry, to have children with, for she would live forever. But she had only eyes for one. When she looked from the land of the ever young across the seas one day, she saw a blonde-haired young man riding upon a horse and fell in love. And the more she looked, the deeper her heart beat for this young man. She watched him for years, though years did not matter, as he had a child. She watched him as a great warrior, but most of all, she watched him because of him. And of course, his name was Oisin. And nothing could deter her from that love. On the day that the Faerie are standing on the beach, Fionn McCall was the first to look up, for he heard the sound of magic across the sea. Above the waves, he saw it. My son, do you see? Oisin looked up. The others looked up. Goll, Conan, Diarmaid, all of them looked up. There they saw the unmistakable sight of Neve, her hair flowing in the wind above the waves. There she came riding on a fairy horse, beautiful, unrelenting across the waves, until she stood there above them all on her fairy horse. Now she upon the beach amongst the sand and stone. Oisin looked into her eyes and felt that all young men desire. For here she was, the woman he had always wanted to find. The father of Fionn saw that she had eyes for her son, such a look that he knew that he had for his own wife, for Saba, for the one who'd been turned into a deer, yet now returned to him. He knew that look of love and could not turn it away, though he tried. Oisin went over to talk to her and looked up to this woman upon her fairy horse. The presence of the horse itself would take your breath or my breath away, for it knew so much. It knew that its mistress loved this man. Their conversation has never been known, yet though it has not, it has never been forgotten. Many write about the conversation between these two young people. When Oisin came to his father to speak, Fionn looked at Oisin. I know, he said. I know. You must leave us. But father, you must go. Do not fight with this. She loves you. Look at her. Both men looked at Niamh, staring, asking, her face like the brightest dawn, her smile like all the greatest lovers. She had that smile. You must leave. I will come back, father. I know, but she waits for you. Oisin said he went to his son, Oscar, and embraced him. Grandfather will look after you. Yes, father. Moments later, he was upon the white horse. And moments after that, Oisin and Niamh began to gallop across the waves as if the horse would not touch the water or the brine. The Fianna stood there a while, straining their eyes across the sea towards the storm in the east. They watched and watched until they could not see. He was gone. And so the story went that he travelled to Tiryn and Og, to the land of the ever young. Here, she said, this is where we'll be married. And here, this is where we shall lie together. After the marriage, she took him around the land of the ever young. Do you see, my love, how all things thrive? Every tree, he said, has fruit and flowers. Yes, she said, and listen to the bees humming on the wind, and the air so warm, and never changes, she said. I'll take you to the headland tomorrow, and we'll see the world from there. And so, like lovers, they explored the world around the land of the ever young. What they see is sometimes known as secrets, shared with few, but one can imagine them sitting beneath the great apple trees, blossom falling through the air. You can imagine them hearing the bleating of goats and sheep, of the cows on the headland. But the weather never changed. The storms never came there. The days were always beautiful, their sleep entrancing, enchanting, and endless was this life. And the years went by. Weeks blended into months, months into those years. Time went on. And all the while, Fionn and the Fianna defended Ireland. Oscar grew up, life went on, and his father did not return. Summers and winters came and went. The great festivals passed through night and day. And as for Oisin, his love for his wife never faded. Years and years. By now he was well settled there. They built things together. They were in states of wonder. And as for the father of Neve, he had given his blessing to this because he had seen that his daughter was in love. He had said to Oisin once, "Now that you are here, you will live forever. You will never lose my daughter's love. I have seen her like this never before. You are the one. This is your land now." And so the years went by, until one afternoon, Neve saw that her love had grown restless, taking himself from time to time away from the palace, the shining palace with its shining towers. He took himself away and went to the headland. And whenever she asked, "What do you seek?" he would say nothing, dared not to say, for wasn't this perfect? Did he not have everything? Yet this time she followed him and saw him weeping, standing above a cliff, weeping. What is it? What is wrong? "I want to see my father," he said, "and my son. I've been away so long. I need to see them. But don't you have everything here? Don't you remember what I told you? Everything is here for you." "But not my father, nor Oscar. They're not here." "They cannot come here," she said. He looked at her then, that beautiful woman who had won his heart. "Can I not go home? I would return. Can I not go home? For I have been here years. My father will grow old. My son will marry and have children. I need to see them." "You cannot go," she said, "now that you are here." But nothing would deter him. He watched the waves come upon the beach and return again. He saw the moon and the sun come and go, but it would not leave him. He needed to see his son and his father. Eventually she knew the sadness of his heart. Heavy it was. "Oisin, I will allow you to go home. No one ever leaves here, but you can leave. I have made some magic. My horse will take you there. I have spoken with her. She will carry you across the waves back to Erin, back to your father and son. But I advise you this, my love, my love. Do not walk upon that land, though it will welcome you and call you. You cannot walk upon that land any more, for your soul is here. So you must stay upon her saddle. You must not walk upon the land of your birth. And in this way, you will return to me. Do you understand?" As he turned away from the distant views and looked into her eyes, he saw what he had seen that first day when she crossed the waves, a woman of great intent. "I understand," he said. "Why would I not come back? Look at you. You carry my heart in your look, in your eyes, in your gaze. You carry my heart just as your heart beats here. So mine beats for you. I will return." The next day, the horse came to him saddled and ready. He embraced Eve. I will look out for you, she said. I will wait until you return. Each sunrise, I will wait until at last we are together again. Yes, my love. Their kiss was long and beautiful, as if never ending. And when his lips left hers, they never left. She put her fingers upon her skin and felt that kiss. Ride well, she said, and watched him sit upon the saddle. Take care of my love, he said, and off he went. The horse leaping towards the sea, and there, as if some unseen path carried them, let that horse gallop and not touch the waves. She watched them go, the white of the horse, the corn yellow of his hair, the shining of silver on his back and arms. Ride well, she said. I shall wait for you. Oisin rode for how long I cannot say. Some people say it was for days, for how long does it take to return from the land of the ever young? But eventually he came upon the sight that he knew well, rising cliffs of the northern land. There, above that, the castle of Tara. Home. Quick now, he says to his horse. Go quick, for I am impatient to see my father. And surely there my son will come running. Perhaps he has a child by now. He came to the beach and looked left and right. He looked east and west. There was no sign of anyone. Unusual. Go, he said. Let us go up the hill to the castle. They must be there. Up they went. But as they rose up through the ridges, as that track led them to the castle, it seemed unused. Strange. And when at last the castle came into view, it was not the way he remembered. No rising towers now, no great defending wall, a ruin. It was a ruin. He rode into the castle of what was left of it and heard the echoing of the fairy horse's hooves. Father, where are you? Come on. They went into a second chamber where there had been a great rising roof and ceiling. There the feasting of the Faerie before great fires, yet the hearth was broken, and above it the sky. Father? Oscar? Dermot? Where are you? He heard something and turned around, but all it was a flock of crows calling into the wind. Where is everyone? Why is this a ruin? Have you fled for other lands? Why are you not here in this sacred place? He stared at the walls of Tara. How could this be? He rode from there, down across the hills. Green they were, the horse galloping fast, for was it not a fairy horse? From one field and one hill to another he rode, but no sign of the Faerie, until one afternoon he came across a crop of fields spreading down below towards a river, and there were people walking, others there labouring upon the land. He looked down. Were they so far away that they seemed so far, so small? They looked up at him. They'd heard the horse, and they looked up. The elder amongst them told his people to stay still. "Do not move," he said. "There is a giant abroad. Do not move, lest he comes here and kills us." "What do you want?" says the man. "What do you want of us?" Oisin looked down at the man who seemed half his size. "I'm looking for my father," he said. "Your father? What giant would live here?" "I am no giant," said Oisin. "You are a giant to us. That is why we are scared of you, fearful. What do you want? Do you want money? Do you want gold? Do you want food?" "I want to see my father and my son." "Well, what is your father's name?" "Are you sure he lives in these parts?" "My father's name is Fionn McCall." The man looked at him. "But you speak of the Faerie," he said. "What do you mean that he is your father?" "He is my father. I rode away." "Wait," said the man, coming closer and looking up at this giant upon the horse. "Wait. What is your name?" "My name is Oisin." The old man looked around at the people. "Come," he said. "Come closer." They came closer up the hill towards Oisin. "I have a story to tell you," he said to the giant. "You do not know about the Faerie. What happened?" "I am confused," said Oisin. "What do you mean, what happened?" "There are stories about the son of the Faerie, the son of Fionn McCall. His name is the name you give us now." "Oisin, aye, what is the story?" "That a fairy woman came to find you, Neve with the golden hair. That they say you rode away to the land of the ever young." "Well, I did, but I have returned to see my father." "You are too late. There have been many battles. Your father died in one of those battles. He died weeping over the grave of your son." "But when did this happen? Where are the graves? I do not believe you." "Come with me. We will take you there." So it was that the giant upon his horse followed the people down to the river, and crossing the river they came to a rising land, and there beyond it a chapel. "Here St. Patrick has come and gone," says the man. "And there, see that rising stone, see the name upon it." There Oisin stared and saw the name of his father, and then the name of his son. "But how can this be? How long ago was this?" "You must steady yourself." "What do you mean?" 300 years or more since they died." "But that is not possible." "It is not possible. You have been gone a long time, Oisin. You have been in the land of the ever young. You are a vision before us. You are a giant. We are the people that followed. Your family are stories to us now. And you are returned. And that is my father's grave and my son's. I cannot bear it." And with that, Oisin stared down at the ground. For a moment he remembered what his beloved told him. Leave not the horse. The horse became agitated. I must feel the wave. He pushed the horse further forward. Come on. The horse stepped between the graves. Oisin put his hand upon the headstone, a rough great stone of granite, and wept. He lay his weight upon that stone. Oh, my father, oh, my beloved father. But as he did, as he took his hand away to put his hand upon his son's grave, the girth strap upon the Faerie horse snapped, could not take the weight as he leant with sorrow. And as it snapped, the saddle began to slide, and Oisin fell and fell to the ground of Erin, a giant falling into the world. And the horse reared up and sparkled with stars and galloped away across the ridge, through the river and away. And there the people looked at Oisin, who had returned. They saw that he, beneath his cloak, was shrivelling away, a young bright thing, shrivelled to old age in but a few moments, as if all the years of his life had caught up with him. All the years he had not spent here were now in his bones and on his skin. There before them lay an old man, upon the cloak, upon the green of the land itself. Some people say they carried him from that place. Some people say that St. Patrick was called. Some people say that he was not to be buried in this place at all. There are many stories about what happened to poor Oisin. His grave is still there, though. You just have to be upon the path to find him there upon a hill, facing to the east. They lay him there, not so far away from his family and their Fianna, close enough, but yet his grave facing the east, his love. And as for Neve of the golden hair, each day she would stand upon the palace walls and go to the highest tower. Each day in the afternoon she would go down to the shore and rise up upon the cliff, waiting for him. When will he return, my love? And never did she see him until one day, as she stood upon the cliff, as she had stood there with him all those years ago. Yet what is time? But now she stood there and saw something in the distance, amid the storm upon the horizon, that took the great shape of the world passing by, that never changes here. She saw the unmistakable shape of her fairy horse, galloping above the waves. Fast it was coming, quick and fast, yet relentless, like a storm of sorrow. She saw it coming, riderless, the empty saddle, the horse intent on returning home, without him now. without him now. And as she looked down, as the horse reached the shore at the base of the cliff where she now stood, she looked out at the sky and she looked at the horse. Oh, my love, why did you not listen? Why do you not return to me? How long is time when there is no end to it? And so there was no end to her sorrow. It became one of the great sorrows of Ireland. But Niamh of the golden hair is always waiting for a sheen to return to her in the land of the ever young, beneath the towers of Tirnanog, where she comes and goes, sometimes with a horse, sometimes alone, her heart always waiting, always waiting. And that is the story. Yeah. And this is the Elvish Queen, Caerphyn. I'm writing in her tunic from some of the Elvish that I have written in this book. I have a number of things about her and her family. And I guess a little bit like Niamh of the golden hair, there is a sorrow about Caerphyn, but there is much more than that. For in meeting the oracle, for Caerphyn, she knew there was something greater than this life. Something far greater was waiting for her. And she would live for that after she had sacrificed her life for her son. But that is another story for another time. Yeah. I hope you like what I've got here. Yes, hi. Yeah, Ken. Yeah, this is how I work. And just to show you one other thing, the next film I'm going to do is a little bit about Vasilisa, who's one of my characters. I'm going to be talking about adding watercolour to pen and ink. So I'm going to be working on this bit, but this is one of my major characters too. I just want to show you one or two others while I'm here. This is another illustration from my books. You can find out about my books at my website, www.pauljacksonIsElsewhere.com. This is one of my books, and this has got illustrations in it, and yeah. So if you want to find out more, just go on to www.pauljacksonIsElsewhere.com or follow me. You'll find out all my links on Linktree, which is here on YouTube. How I work, why I work, what I do, and what else have I got to show you before I go. Yeah, this is another illustration, which is in the first book, actually. This is Gangelin and Findorian and the conversation. This is watercolour with pen and ink into the watercolour, so slightly different. Anyway, there you are. I hope you enjoyed that story, and do follow me here and do share. And I tend to load up at least 2 films a week, and there's much more coming all the time. So thank you for being here. I hope you've enjoyed. I'm just going to turn that round now. Just going to move that. I hope you've enjoyed the story today, and I look forward to seeing you another day here on YouTube.